Dear moderators, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Reem Al-Ubaidi and I welcome you all on behalf of Dr. Mohammed Al-Ali, Director General of Trends Research and Advisory, to the opening of a unique and independent initiative which will hold a series of e-discussion titled What's Trending? It will take place starting January to September 2021. This initiative will focus on 3 themes of Expo 21: opportunity, sustainability, and mobility. What's Trending is an initiative to connect countries participating in the mega event. The idea is to broaden our horizon and engage government entities and international organizations to better understand the various dimensions of global and strategic issues. Trend will gather technology managers, scientists, high-tech entrepreneurs, and industry leaders to discuss and explore their respective countries' strategies on the themes of opportunity, sustainability, and mobility. So tonight, we are kicking off this series under the title of New Industries and Financial Capital. This session will highlight the mega trends that are likely to drive the future industrial revolution and what the opportunities they will create. More importantly, how will these shifts be financed? So the fourth industrial revolution is driven by advanced in a combination of technologies, namely AI, IoT, and quantum computing, and it's evolving before our eyes. Hence, it is worth asking this question: what will be the next industrial revolution? And what will be its main drivers? So I thank the panelists, experts, and the entrepreneurs who have agreed to participate in this discussion. So let's start our quest to unveil and understand what's trending. Thank you, everyone. And I now give the floor to our moderator of the night, Adriana. The floor is yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And I'm very pleased to participate in your series of events. We have a great lineup of panelists here tonight to speak to people. So I'll just give you a brief introduction to everybody. Our first gentleman is Mr. Xu, who's the Director of Macro Research Department in Chongyang Institute for Financial Studies at Renmin University of China. He's an expert on artificial intelligence and China's digital economy. Then we have Mr. Suraba Bando Yapod Hawa, so I'm terribly sorry, very long name. So he's presently working as fellow at the National Council of Applied Economic Research. He attained his PhD in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. Our next speaker is Mr. Anthony Zakas, who's a senior fellow at the London School of Economics for Global Affairs with 27 years of experience in academia and policy advice on issues related to financial systems and corporates. We have Mr. Abdullah, who is an economist and senior research analyst at the King Abdullah Petroleum Studies and Research Center. He primarily works with economic metric modeling with a research focus on macroeconomics, international trade, investment flows, financial development, and public policy. And finally, we have Mr. Mahmoud Mohammed Sharif, who has spent 20 years conducting research in public policy, strategy, and development across corporate and government sectors. So we're going to start off with Mr. Mahmoud, who's going to give a presentation. Over to you, Mr. Mahmoud.
Yes, thank you, dear moderator, and I'm very glad to have such an opportunity. Of course, I will be speaking about the opportunity with respect to the opportunity, sustainability, and mobility in forum, and that is part of what is trending. And of course, this is in line with the expo that is happening this year, hopefully, of course, this year. Now, let me just give you an overall framework of what is the importance of the topic. I usually start with giving a generic framework. So the generic framework from an economic perspective is that you have to look at the growth model. You have to look at the income model. So the income model is basically the traditional income model was K plus L plus T. Now T actually resembles not only technology in the physical sense, but enabling environment, the weather, the degree of what do you call it, economic freedom we have, the legislations, all of that comes under T. And one important subcomponent is ideation, which is a power to ideate, to create new ideas, that will create a leap forward in terms of the economic development and in terms of income generation. And so the T part of it addresses is very much related to the industrial revolution and how it is going, especially the fourth one, since it is clearly focused on the IT. But it's important once you build. I'm sure we have here econometric modeling expert who sure worked on economic development, who have sure worked in terms of what do you call it, growth, economic growth and development model. Now, what you will do is that you will base that, this will be the base of your economic development model in terms of what are the sectors that you're going to attract. So if you have labor, capital, and technology as your foundation formula, then you would neglect the component of ideation. And the component of ideation is what Morrow is a famous economist, I'm sure all of you know, but has created a subcategory and a specific category for the power of ideation. Of course, R&D is part of ideation. There are many things, but to give it a separate ideation is to give it a separate weighting, an important weighting. It's not anymore part of technology. It's a separate category. So the next, any economic model that you have must or have to take into consideration the Morrow growth model, because it has placed strong emphasis on the power of ideation. So tomorrow, if you come with the initiatives, you will have a strong portion of that initiative fixated on how to ignite the ideation process and the innovation process. That's just to start with. Now let's move on into exactly the opportunity aspect of our forum here. So what are the mega threats? So let's look at the driver of the industrial revolution of the future. So again, now this is part of the technology component of the growth model or the income model. So you have implantable technology, digital presence, vision as a new interface, wearable internet, ubiquitous computing, supercomputer, IT connected home, smart city, all the decision making, AI and white collar jobs. You have Bitcoin, blockchain, sharing economy, government, 3D. All of this is accelerating actually the T aspect of the growth model. It's okay to place an emphasis on that, but there are other important components, as I mentioned, ideation. There are other things, of course, enable environment that comes under the T variable in the growth model. So these are the mega trends that will drive the industrial revolution of the future. You can look at it, and of course, neurotechnology is an important thing. 3D printing is another important thing. So what are the opportunities that are created by the mega trends? Of course, we have devoted in terms of physical domain, digital domain, and biological domain. Of course, in the biological domain, there is genetic engineering, synthetic biology, bioprinting. In the digital domain, you have Internet of the Thing, remote monitoring technology, blockchain and Bitcoin, sharing and economy and on-demand economy, autonomous vehicle, the physical domain, and advanced robotics. So financing the shift to industry. Again, we are now here we are at the K, what do you call it, the K component of the growth model. So we're focusing on how this shift will happen and what is the role of finance, what is the role of capital here. So to put that in perspective, of course, industry 4.0, which is the fourth, and then there is finance 4.0. So it's a subset of 4.0, and it is estimated that it will be responsible for a 6% growth and will account for 3.3 trillion by 2025. So some of the interesting opportunity, I'm sure this was probably should be in the previous slide, but also it has implication here in finance, a self-driving car and the amount it will create by 2023. And the CAGR is, of course, 36.2, 173.5. Software consulting service. Again, this is opportunity, but of course it has an implication for the finance. Now, what do we call digital innovation and financial process automation in the banking, insurance, mortgage, forex, stocks, and many other financial sectors are actually thriving, and they will experience a major change in order to facilitate this growth, this shift to the industry, to industry 4.0, which is the fourth industry. Of course, regionalization is another important trend that would happen in the financial sector. Deal Health Index tool. Again, this is a software or a solution that was developed by SAB, and it has a very strong implication. It just flags out those applications for finance that are somehow risky and does not fill in line with the fourth industrial revolution. So let's speak about some specific example or initiative or trends that is related to the finance shift. So the most important thing, the fastest financial transaction, the faster, the better, the cheapest financial. Of course, there should be a huge decrease in operational costs. There should be an easiest access to financial service, removal of middleman and what you call it, other central regulation. There will be a reduced requirement for human tech talent. Of course, increased use of robotics and artificial intelligence. More efficient, effective target marketing, effective customer support through bots at very low cost. Of course, this would also experience an increased area of cooperation. Reduce risk is an important thing, as you have technology which are data driven. Of course, your business intelligence will increase as a financial institution. I mean, these are the things that you have to put into your mind whenever you are either a CEO or in charge or a financial institution. Greater user experience, increased transparency and trust. So, what do you call it? Less human errors. Of course, the new emergence of a new business domain, the payment gateway, and you see how that has strong implication in terms of e-commerce and other things. Financial inclusion of the poor. So this would have more, you would see more inclusion of the less fortunate member of the society. We will notice increased volume of liquidity.
5 minutes, Mr. Mahmoud.
Okay. Okay, efficient trading of stocks and forex.
5 minutes.
Yes, thanks a lot. Reduced number of frauds and burglary, and smart contract and ease of knowability. Now, of course, the next industrial revolution. Now here we're speaking about the fifth industrial revolution. So human and machine engaging together, working together. There's a human element in the next industrial revolution. So we are in the fourth industrial revolution. Soon we will actually be in the fifth. So this is just a trajectory of the major industrial revolution. They were the first industrial revolution in the 19th century. The second one, of course, the steel, electricity, and combustion engine. And the third, fourth, and the fifth, which has a human element to it. So we have blockchains, AI, and human, and this is what would be the major component or subset in the most simplistic format. As AI will increase productivity, blockchain will have impact on finance. Robotics will increase your ROI. Now, what is the fourth element of the fifth industrial revolution is the human element. And of course, there we're talking about purpose, and we are talking about some sort of moral obligations. And this has to do with alignment with the SDG. And of course, this is a model that I have based on UNCTAD that says how, in terms of mobilization, raising fund and resolution and financial market toward investment in SDG. So your investment, your mobilization, your raising of fund has to be aligned with the SDGs. The challenging the part that you have, it's important that you be promoting and facilitating investment into SDG sector as prescribed by Millennium Development Goal. So this again is the human element of it. The impact, what kind of impact it have? It will maximize sustainable development, benefit, and minimize risk. Of course, at the leadership, the role will be setting guiding principle, galvanizing action, and ensuring policy coherence. Thanks a lot for your patience, and thank you for giving me the platform to discuss this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mahmoud. It's very, very interesting. I've got lots of questions. I can hardly wait to ask them. And after Mr. Shu has done his presentation, you're next, Mr. Shu.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I would like to do my presentation in 10 minutes. Okay. Considering my English is not so good, so I will use more data and more picture to show my ideas. And my topic is new industry and financial capital in China. Basically, four questions I would like to answer today. The first is, what are the trends? So what is the industrial revolution of the future, and what opportunities will be created, and how will this shift, and what will be its main drivers? The first two questions I would like to answer use four elements. These four elements is a key to push China's digital economy or China's digital technology development. And I not mentioned artificial intelligence in my presentation because the artificial intelligence is the result of the development. It's not the reason to drive the China's development. The first is, the most important is, the semiconductor industry. As the picture shows, according to the IC Insights, the data, moreover, the IC Insights forecast that this year the semiconductor will increase by 30.5 percentage points from 2020 to 19.4 in 2005. In 2025. But the Chinese government requires China's own companies can supply 70% of the chips to the homeland market by 2025. So it's a huge gap, you know. If the IC insights data is true, you know, in the 2025, there's still a huge gap about about the semiconductor products. The Chinese, China can't supply can't buy the own country companies semiconductor products because maybe they could have a risk in 2025. Chinese companies still haven't the ability to to produce so many semiconductor products. So is a question, or also is a key to decide the future of Chinese technology development. And the second is the Internet of Things. China's spending on IoT is expected to reach around $300 billion by 2024, with a compound annual growth rate to stand at 30% in the next 5 years. This is the data from IDC, and actually China. Now here is two very important data. In 2020, the size of China's Internet of Things industry has existed 1.7 trillion yuan. In 2019, the number of IoT connections in China is 3.63 billion. And by 2025, the number of IoT connections in China will reach 8.01 billion. That's a huge connecting. There could be a huge Internet of Things network in the future of China. And also China, the IoT products also has taken a big global market. According to the data from IoT Analytics, in 2020, almost 65% of IoT, cellular IoT connections was taken by China Unicom and China Telecom. These two companies. So this is also very important, and also the key engine to drive the future Chinese future economy. And the third and the most important thing is China now try to build its own IoT operation system. This is very important. Before the trade war, we buy IoT operation system from United States, from some other countries. But when Donald Trump started the trade war, and we suddenly found that we have to build our own IoT operation system. And this is also the key point, the huge money investment in this area, the IoT operation system. For example, home operation system, which created by Huawei, is pretty good. Now I have tried some program on this system. It's pretty good. And the third is digital trade. This China's digital trade market reached more than 2,070 billion in 2020. And here are also some data I would like to share with you. Up to June 2020, the user size of online shopping was 749 million. And the user size of online payment was 805 million. So there is a huge digital trade market in China, and also many foreign companies earn lots of money from China's digital trade market. And I would like to share stories with you. This is a VIP Kit. VIP Kit is a China online English education company. This company employs over 70,000 North American English teachers, and over 500,000 Chinese students learn English by the online platform of VIP Kit. An American friend of mine makes about $20 per hour through this online platform by teaching English. And actually, lots of such kind of companies, rising in the latest few years. And these companies actually, changed the structure of our economy. And this is very interesting things. And the fourth is internet infrastructure. China, had 940 million net citizens, and the number of used Chinese government service was 73 million. And we have a digital government, we have digital market, we have digital, almost digital everything now. And but here is also a question. So we have, the monopoly challenges. The digital company, the unique companies, the digital companies become bigger and bigger and control more and more market. The more monopoly and the less opportunity could be survived for other small business. So this is a problem, and we must fix in the next 5 years. And how will this shift to be financed? And just to say one thing is, actually the finance has huge change in the past few years, because if you have the whole data, it's very easy to decide which things you need to investment, because you control if you control enough data. I mean, the big data technology has changed the financial games, and I would like to discuss if by email if you interested in this topic. And the next part and the final part is what will be the next industry in revolution, and what will be its main drivers. Please let me share a story to explain this. This is an amazing picture showing a soaring turbine rail car, which was built in the 1970s, but quickly abandoned because, obviously, this train extremely high fuel consumption, and so it's high tech, but this invention made a mistake. So I mean, nobody know what could exactly the next industrial revolution it is. Nobody know. Maybe quantum computing technology, maybe artificial intelligence. Nobody know. But we know is the place can tolerance for making mistakes. The next industrial revolution have high possibility to happen. So this is what I want to say. The soft power is the key to next industrial revolution. Okay, and the next is actually China now have some problems, in development, because, for example, the bachelor degree discrimination problems. For example, if you have the good bachelor degree, many companies don't like to hire you as a technical engineer. For example, if you are old, you are over 30, you are hard to find a software program jobs, and so we have some such problems, and we need a new laws to regulate these problems, and this is what we want to do in the future. And the next I want to say is what will be the next industrial revolution, and what will be its main drivers. I think two things is the most important, just what I mentioned: tolerance for making mistakes, and more individual freedom and diversity. And why artificial intelligence is not important is because artificial intelligence is still stupid. I'm an engineer, I know. Artificial intelligence is not so smart as we think. And at the second reason is, artificial intelligence maybe could have a huge change in the future. Now, today's algorithm, the disadvantage, has shown, the problems could more and more corruption will show in the next few years. Okay, and the last, I want to say good news. China, passes U.S. as the #1 destination for foreign investment as a coronavirus upon the global economy. In one word, we have do a lot of things in the past, and we have some problems, and I believe we will have a better future. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Xu. Now, I'd like to open it up for the floor because the rest of the participants, as esteemed and professional as they are, don't have presentations, but really they have a lot to contribute into the overall conversation that we've heard today from Mr. Mohammed and Mr. Xu. So really my question is to everybody, but I want to draw on the two presentations that we've just listened to. I'm a circular economy practitioner, so this is what consumes me every day. And the one thing that I haven't heard from either Mr. Mohammed or Mr. Xu in regards to the future, the vision of the future, is how do we build in sustainability and circular economy principles into the economics of future development and growth and Industry 4.0. So who would like to start off this, the answering to, who would like to start the answer?
Okay. Let me go first. I mean,
Okay.
yes. So when we speak about the fifth industrial revolution, and one of the what do you call it, the criticism of the fourth industrial revolution is the dehumanizing effect. So the fifth industrial revolution will bring the human factor into it by bringing intentionality and moral clarity. So by increasing, for example, in terms of the moral clarity or intentionality, you have the increasing prominence of UN Sustainable Development Goal, such as getting private capital in a manner that requires business to be SDG aligned, and of course losing the gender gaps and other important sustainable development or development issues that has some sort of a human aspect to it, and that would bring the human aspect back to the economic growth factors.
So are you suggesting that we have to go through Industry 4.0 first before we get to the human element? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think we are already in of course, in the industrial 4.0, and it is only natural that after some time we will realize that the human that we have neglected the human element, and there are costs. There are probably social costs. There are what do you call it? Conceptual costs as well, innovation costs to it. And so it's important to go through this, and then, of course, go to the fifth, which will be a natural progression. However, being in the fourth industrial revolution, there are lots of, as we noticed, probably there are some downsides in terms of the effects on some subsectors. And as I was discussing with our scientific advisor that day, that some of the industries or the professions that are mentally focused would be somehow hard to mimic. It would be a bit challenging. Okay. So these industry might thrive, but there will be some costs at that. So the fifth will rectify that, or will correct that that deficiency, if we can say it, deficiency of the audience, allow me to say that.
Okay, Mr. Shu, how do you feel about that? I have in your presentation also, there was almost nothing on the concept of how we build in sustainability into the current, as Mr. Mahmoud just mentioned, that we are already in Industry 4.0. So really, Industry 4.0 has a lot to contribute to sustainability. It's just not, we're not joining these two things up fast enough. Yes. Mr. Shu, in your presentation also, I didn't see much information.
Thank you. In my opinion, your question is about the green economy and Industry 4.0.
Right.
You mean, yeah, right? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So I'm trying to speak clearly and slowly. Actually, China has do a lot of things about green economy, and 3 of my colleagues are experts of green economy. And please allow me use about 3 minutes to introduce what I have done in China. So first is, get out of poverty, the poor people. And this year, China, helped about 99% of poor people to, to change the ways of living, change the ways to earn money, and change the ways and help them live more green, more healthy. And the second is a digital gap or digital divided. For example, some people have mobile phones, smart mobile phones, but another people only have shoes. So such kind of a huge digital gap. China, now in the past 10 years, built 5G internet infrastructures, and also the satellite internet, help the poor people, help the farmers or urban citizens to use the digital platforms in a very cheap price. So when the digital gap becomes smaller, the poor people can have more equal opportunities to earn money, and then they will change the ways of life, and they will have more time and more time, more space, or more opportunity to keep the green and sustainable and secular development. And the third thing is very important is algorithm, computer algorithm. China use computer algorithm to make sure our society is a sustainable secular economy. Please allow me share one PPT, if you don't mind. Just one picture I will show you. Here. Here. This structure is very important to make sure China will have a green development in the future. This is our our country's political structure. Today, this is what have happened about the digital governance in China. As you know, we governed by the party, and the party use algorithms to understand the society and to test the policies and get the feedback immediately. For example, so use structures and help the algorithms to drive people to live green and use green ways to earn money and make sure the society more sustainable.
Okay, so we have a number of economists. Thank you so much, Mr. Shu. We have some economists here. Mr. Suruba, The one thing that I'm still not satisfied with, and I apologize to Mr. Shuem, Mr. Mahmoud, but one thing I'm not satisfied though with is this issue of resource scarcity. We don't have enough resource. How do we balance out our economic growth, Industry 4.0, which can contribute tremendously towards resource efficiency? We simply do not have enough resources to manage growth coming up to a population of nearly 10 billion. As an economist, how do you marry these two concepts between growth, especially in the country of India, where you will hit nearly 1.4 billion people soon? How do we balance out this resource scarcity, resource management, and Industry 4.0?
Yeah.
Okay, go first.
Yep.
Can I start or?
Yes, please. Yes.
Actually, yeah. The thing is that, you know, in India, what I can say that nearly 60% of India's GDP is driven by domestic private consumption, as compared to 40% in China. So hence the economy is protected to a great extent against external shock and cycles of low and high public investment. This is number one, since it is a vibrant democracy. And what I feel is that we need to see this, the fourth industrial revolution from a little different perspective, because already Mahmoud has said that we are on the fourth stage of industrial revolution. We are, because the circumstances has pushed us to this situation. Now, I would like to focus something like, say, for example, the income growth. The income growth, you know, we will have to think of the middle and high segment expansion that is going on. Second is a reduction of poverty, but very, very importantly, the consumption growth and its composition. That is very, very important. So this is one important force. Second, that is coming up in a very big way, what I would wish to say, that there is a steady and dispersed urbanization. And, you know, there is a breakdown of urban-rural divide. That is another very important aspect. Thirdly, if in terms of India or in terms of India's outlook, what we can say that there is a favorable demography, the working age majority, and there is a, you know, millennium and generation Z that is coming up in a very, very big way. Fourthly, very important is the technology and, you know, innovation. Whatever is there in the existing technology and whatever the new technology and business model innovation that are coming up in a big way. And with all this, you know, there are evolving consumption attitudes, all been led by, you know, driven by income, demography, technology adoption, led preferences, etc. Now, let us dwell a little bit on all this. Let's say, for example, growth in income, it will transform India from a bottom of the, you know, pyramid economy to a middle class dominated economy, with consumption spending is anticipated to touch 6 trillion by 2030. So this is one important aspect. So this will basically driven by the middle class expansion and emergence of a sizable high income segment. By 2030, India will add about 140 million income and middle income and 21 million high income households.
But all this, sorry, if I may interrupt, all this is really driving more consumption as more people in India move from poverty to middle class, which is, of course, a
Yeah.
great aspiration. But how is India going to sustain the resources required to meet this consumer demand? So in 2019, India issued the resource efficiency policy, but
Yeah.
implementation is yet to be seen. The same as with China. China has a sustainability, for the Belt and Road Initiative, and also net zero, committed to net zero by 2060. Implementation is really what is still yet to come.
Yeah.
Can I just bring in Mr. Abdullah and also Anthony as two economists? What do you feel about how we're going to drive growth, Industry 4.0 and sustainability? Mr. Abdullah?
So much, Adriana. Thank you, esteemed panelists, for your very, informative discussion on many different angles of this fourth industrial revolution complex. In all honesty, I've had the pleasure to be part of the Think 20, which was the think tank engagement group of the G20 during Saudi Arabia's presidency. And I was first a member of the Trade and Investment and Growth Task Force, which I had the opportunity to collaborate with many institutions and think tanks around the world and see their work. And when the discussion was kind of formulating here, I could not help myself without thinking about one individual from the World Economic Forum who submitted one policy brief in which he talked about this sustainable investment. But before we talk about that, just kind of like a prelude, technology, the destruction of it, it's kind of an external force. And we humans have limited control on how it goes, but we make this daily decisions every day as citizens, as consumers, and as investors. We need to grasp this opportunity, and we have the power to shape the fourth industrial revolution. It doesn't come standalone if government pushes policy and then businesses do not see that it's feasible. Then that you have a conflict of alignment, and then the citizens don't think it's fair. There needs to be a very comprehensive approach that complements all agents in the economy to drive the fourth industrial revolution in a way that is sustainable. And the fourth industrial revolution is a scary one, and as Mahmoud discussed about the dehumanizing element, but and also it can create more high value added jobs. The key takeaway from fourth industrial revolution it's the optimization and technological application for all of the scarce resources. You have these new solar panels that are empowered by artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms that optimize angles of the mirrors to optimize the heat intake and switch and move across to maximize the amount of energy it can capture. Farmers are now using LED lights at night to improve plant growth, which reduces around 30 to 40% of water reduction that would be needed to suffice the plant's livability. So there are many ways we can, as humans, I'm not really afraid about the scarcity issue because, this is Malthusian type approach, the population is going to grow and we're unable to cope with this amazing population growth due to improvements in healthcare and poverty elimination. The fourth industrial revolution poses the question, what happens to us as humans, as our privacy, and how can we facilitate the proper investment mechanisms? Now, when we go back to the...
I'll just bring in Anthony now, if that's okay, because we don't have much time. Anthony, can you contribute to the questions that I'm raising in regards to how we all tie this together, not just within the broad concept of sustainability, but within the actual pinpointing of resource efficiency? Mr. Abdullah pointed out water as a very critical element here of one area that is really critical for our futures, in not just human future, but also how we drive Industry 4.0. Some of these industries use an enormous amount of water. So Anthony, can you jump in here, please?
Yes, of course. I have 2 or 3 comments that might contribute in the debate we're having about megatrends. My first comment is about Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, we are 10 years before the final end, and we have to reach a lot of ambitious targets. My point is that so far the debate about Sustainable Development Goals was about resources. We need that amount of billions in order to achieve, etc. In recent years, in recent months, I would say, we have a shift of policy on building back better. And that creates a lot of opportunities, I think, because people start revisiting ideas and innovation, ideas about climate, about health, about resilience. And I think that will create a different setup for global transformations, where innovation and Industry 4.0 can play an important role. This is my first point. My second point is about digitalization. If we step back 20 years, the concept about digitalization was a very linear one. First, you build an infrastructure, and then you have people using ICT infrastructure. Recent trends about artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, are really radically changing the situation. And then you have bottom-up opportunities for producers, for the circular economy, etc. My third general point is about structural shifts. My idea is that we have a lot of knowledge stock in the global economy. Diffusion is important. Diffusion is determined by structural shifts at the country level, income, trade, etc. And it's important for local producers to have first localized intelligence, but also sufficient markets. So in a way, we have a lot of promising trends, but we have also ideas and things that need to be done in order to synchronize to these trends. First, with sustainable development, digitalization is also important, but also structural shifts in the country level, but also in the global economy. So that will be my first take in the debate we're having.
Okay, so thank you very much for those great comments. Just keeping this moving, because we have a few more minutes left. I just want to ask everybody, what would be your key takeaway that ties in sustainability, Industry 4.0, and finances? Because we need to, when I talk to people in government, my opinion is that every decision every government ministry and agency makes must be underpinned by the decision around sustainability in the circular economy. So, for example, that would be when you're building in renewable energy, the operators are required to skills train, have take-back systems, and also to deal with waste at the end of the use cycle of windmills, solar panels, and other types of renewable energy. And this isn't being implemented yet. So this is just one example of how policymakers, when they go to push for renewable energy, they need to consider to include these vendors into including these kinds of systems. So this is one very simple example.
Can I start?
Sorry?
Can I start?
Yeah, so each of you, just one takeaway. Yes, Anthony, you start.
Okay, in the order that I presented my points. When it comes to sustainable development, I think it's...
Anthony.
Can I start? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Let me start with sustainable development. I think what is extremely important is to integrate impact investors in the picture, because we have important funding gaps and impact investors can play an important role. Also, it's important to multiply best practice for climate to other areas of global public goods. Point number one. When it comes to digitalization, I would say that would be a market-driven process. People there have enough funding. They need to build and maintain sustainable business models. When it comes to localized response to market trends and shifting structural trends, I think it's important to realize that we have a very critical market segmentation. We have some local players who have access to global markets, and we have all the rest. What is important is look to the rest and see how we can accommodate their funding needs. And there, how the pandemic will play out is very important, because it will determine, say, interest rates and the process in the global economy. I will stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Xu, you're next, please. What would be your key takeaway?
Okay, thank you. I think, to make the cake more bigger and, think out of the box is the key to, make sure the economy or the society sustainable development, and also makes cake more bigger and is the meaning of the industry 4.0, and also is the key about the resource allocation. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mahmoud.
Yeah, so I think let's draw a rectangle here, or where we have 4.0, the industry, sustainable development goals, finance, and the circular economy. So at in terms of how we can link these factors together, in terms of finance, I mean, finance is important because it will transition, it will help us, it will help the transition process to the fourth industrial revolution. But it's important that we have some sort of a streamlining exercise with sustainable development goal to make, for example, these finances are more aligned with poverty and other major SDG goals. And as well as that, to incorporate to streamline that with the concept of circular economy. So if you look at the supply chain of the circular economy, we have the energy, we have production, distribution, use, disposal, waste and emission leakage. And at each stage of that, there are some sort of initiative that we can take, for example, in terms of remanufacturing, reuse, longer use, and all of that. So if we incorporate and if we streamline our industrial revolution strategies with these two important vertical, and that is the sustainable development goals and the circular economy, vis-a-vis not only finance but any other important opportunity that would arise out of the four industrial revolutions. So if we have that framework, if we have that diagnostic framework, then we will be able to reduce the unfavorable outcomes of the fourth industrial revolutions. These are lessons for the fifth, as I have discussed earlier, that these will be incorporated in the fifth industrial revolution. But why wait till the fifth, where we can still have that thing right now? So again, streamlining with the sustainable development goal, streamlining with the circular economy perspective, and diagnosing each opportunity and see how that would fit, or how that would fit with these two important verticals of sustainable development and the circular economy. If we create a framework around that, if some of our modelers can do that, then of course we would be very, will be somehow in the safe side. So
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, next, Mr. Surba.
Yeah. This is a very interesting and important question. I think, in this context, both the private and the public sector can ensure an inclusive and responsible future consumption growth. And, this here, we have to find out the key actors, such as academia or the civil institution, who can play a very critical role to play in ensuring the well-being of the citizens and a drive towards inclusive growth. So this working together, these stakeholders can help build a very good future and benefits to the consumers and the society on a sustainable basis. Thanks.
Okay, Mr. Abdullah, I'm leaving you to the last, lucky last.
Thank you, Adriana. I do agree with some of the statements presented here by the panelists, and I do believe that we need to develop a solid framework that is incentivized by governments, that is adopted by businesses, and is convinced with strong conviction by consumers. And only through that we can have this circular approach of all agents approving within each other. If there's no alignment between them, then we will have bottlenecks that will cause things not to be in this complete cycle. And Saudi Arabia has recently introduced during its presidency the circular carbon economy. We are pushing for this during the G20 presidency, in which we are trying to extract and recapture using the 4R principle with reuse, reducing the carbon, reusing it, recycling it, and removing it. We are pushing the frontier with energy and efficiency and towards being less reliant on conventional fossil fuels and stop polluting and hurting our planet. This is something that's going to take a global effort. It's not something that, if one country says yes and the other country says no, then you'll have this free rider issue, and a lot of things can happen. So there needs to be a push and a global effort for all of us to embody this circular economy.
Okay, so thank you very much. Bravo, gentlemen. We've done very well, I think. We could have gone on for much longer. So thank you for your time. And I'd like to thank the organisers, Trends Research, for inviting us all here this evening for a great discussion to kick off their series of events. And I look forward to participating and listening to more of these initiatives by Trends Research over the coming weeks and months. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana.
Thank you, Adriana.
Bye.
And
Bye.
I just want to mention that I'm looking forward to cooperate with you, Adriana, and of course our fellow economists, Dr. Anthony, Dr. Sarbad, Dr. Abdullah, and Dr. Shao. All of you are welcome to participate